First, I would like to thank everyone for being here. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Norrander and Dr. Dillon for help on my final project. If you opt out, how are you going to get back in? Exploring college students' discourse on work-life balance. Tonight I'm going to share with you why this subject is important, the sensitizing concepts or the literature that laid a foundation for this research. I'm going to briefly explain the methodology used, and then review some of the emergent themes that came from the data. The genesis of this project was actually my 701 class, where I was asked to write a comprehensive literature review, and I chose to write about women in organizations. After I wrote the literature review, I set it aside and vowed not to look at it again. The findings were both disheartening and disappointing. Fast forward to the end of my graduate program, where my husband and I found out that we were going to have a family. And suddenly I became very interested in how a woman can work in an organization in today's society. At this point, you may be thinking, is it really appropriate to address pregnancy or family issues in a college presentation? If that thought occurred to you, then keep it. Because the question of what is taboo or what is appropriate to talk about in a professional setting is at the heart of why this subject is important. Another thing that makes this subject important is our current setting. Right now, from just this year, women occupy over 50% of the workforce. But they occupy less than 6% of top earners, less than 13% of board members, and are overall underrepresented in all positions of power. But they are earning over 50% of bachelor's and master's degrees. Why are these findings important? Well, when you're in a position of power, you have the ability to write policy and to implement policy. So, current work-life balance issues may be suffering because women are underrepresented in positions of power that can write policy. Another thing that makes this important is that it's changeable. According to Buzzanell's 1995 article, she says that glass ceilings, or the invisible force that hinders women's advancement, is both a consequence and a process of how we talk. This means that how we talk at home, or how we talk by the water cooler, or how we talk in board meetings, is defining our views on gender and different positions in the workforce. Most importantly, it's saying that our communication shapes things, and therefore, things can be changed. I'm going to put communication at the heart of the literature I reviewed on this subject. From the literature, I found 3 emergent themes. The first one has to do with org expectations, or organizational expectations. The next theme I found has to do with a lack of work-life policies. And finally, I found 2 types of confining discourse. Now this first theme, organizational expectation, deals with a discourse of think manager, think male. And this affects how women are promoted, how women are advanced and recognized within organizations. Here, a manager is attributed with agentic qualities. Agentic qualities include being direct, being competitive, being assertive, and being forceful. Unfortunately, women are seen as not possessing these qualities and therefore seen as not really appropriate for positions of power. The next theme I found was a lack of sincerity, really, towards work-life policies. Tracy and Riviera, in their 2010 research, interviewed top executives from Missouri. In their interviews, they asked executives' views on work-life policies and how they were using them. Executives often responded with personal narratives. For example, one said, well, you know, my wife, well, I think it's important that someone stays at home to write thank you notes and stuff. So an underlying theme in these executives' response was that work-life policies weren't really an issue because women should really still be at home. The last theme I found in the research were these 2 types of confining discourse. The first type exists at an organizational level between supervisors and between all members. And this is called the business case. This made words such as diversity an acceptable term in organizations, but terms like women's issues or feminism taboo or unacceptable. This is particularly important because women's issues are technically societal issues. So when they say women's issues, they're referring to things like taking time off to take care of a sick family member, or going home because your child is sick, or taking time off, maternity leave, to have a baby. Really, these are society's issues, so when I say that the words women's issues are silenced, what I'm saying is that these issues are being silenced. The other type of confining discourse exists between employees. For instance, if an employee leaves for 2 weeks to take care of an ill parent, or to take care of a child, when they come back, tension often exists between employees, as one said, "Oh, did you have a nice 2 weeks of vacation?" This can cause employees to feel like they cannot take advantage of any policies that exist within their organization. Interestingly, while I was doing this research, I found that there were no articles explaining our next generation. What are the upcoming members of our workforce talking about? How is their communication going to reinforce or change this current situation? This opened up a wonderful opportunity for me to explore college students' discourse on work-life policies. Therefore, I drafted 3 research questions. My first research question asked, how do college students perceive gender differences in the workforce? My next question asked, how do college students negotiate power in organizations? And lastly, I asked, what are college students' desires when it comes to work-life balance? To answer these research questions, I took on a qualitative perspective in research. I did this so that the unique voices of the participants could be heard. I also implied focus groups. Focus groups were used mostly for their complementary effects for group discussion. The participants for this study were between the ages of 18 to 22, unmarried and childless. Therefore, talking about work-life policies was a little unnerving, and the complementary interactions in focus groups helped them talk about this subject. From this discourse, I found 3 themes. My first theme from these focus groups deals with how students are talking about gender ideologies. This theme relates to a lot of the literature I read, where women are portrayed as the caregiver and males are portrayed as the breadwinner. Here, students talked about their futures, as in, how will I deal with it? Females talked about having to leave work more often to take care of their children, or finding some time where they would be able to leave work to have a child. I titled this theme, Ladies, I'm Not Trying to Be Sexist Here, because one male participant said, ladies, I'm not trying to be sexist, but CEOs are, well, men. The second theme I found within the data refers to how college students view power in organizations. Both males and females said that they desired employers that would be flexible with their college careers, meaning if they needed to go home early for a test, or if they needed to go home to prepare for some sort of college issue, they wanted an employer that would work around their schedule. Both male and female college students also said they did not expect their future employers to be flexible to any personal needs. Students expressed that to excel in an organization, they needed to completely dedicate themselves, give up their personal lives, and then eventually they can maybe earn some time off or some time with their families. This was seen as non-negotiable for advancement. When female participants were asked what they would ask their future employers about work-life policies or work-life balance, it was seen as a taboo subject. I labeled this theme, There Are Certain Things You Shouldn't Talk About. Female college students in particular expressed that they would not ask about any sort of work-life policy because they would be viewed as lazy or not wanting to really work for the organization, and it could affect them being hired. A lot of these fears stemmed from the idea that our economy was in bad shape and students needed to just take whatever they could get. The last theme talks about a desire for fulfillment. And this was seen in both students. The first two themes reinforced what I found in the literature, meaning the primary roles of male and female were very evident among college students. They also saw the organization as the source of power, which they could not negotiate with. But this last theme showed that there was a new desire to find balance for males and females, to where they feel like they can live a healthy home life and have a healthy career in the workforce. This theme is titled, If You Opt Out, How Are You Going to Get Back In? Because in this was a fear, and that fear was, if I do give time to my personal life, how am I going to make that mesh with my career? Here you saw that both male and females believe they should be supporting the child, that if someone stays home it should only be for about a year, and that both parties really deserve to find fulfillment in their lives. Where these do not suggest much change from our current societal conditions, this one shows a desire to progress, even if that wasn't noted in the first two themes. As I mentioned earlier, this is a pilot study. The focus groups did not reach a level of saturation, meaning that more focus groups need to be conducted to understand college students' perceptions of this issue better. From the results I found, I would suggest future research that evenly divides males and females in the focus groups because their views differed so much on these subjects. Also, I would recommend a form of education for college students. Often when things like work-life balance were brought up, students would say things like, maternity leave is for like 2 weeks, right? They were very unaware of the current situation. Overall, this research and future research can provide us greater understanding into our situation and into our future.